What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here from DataDash, and today is November 20th of 2023. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are, because in today's video, I want to spend some time to not only break down Bitcoin's price action and what we're expecting for over the next couple of days, as well as what we're watching, but outside of that as well, I want to do a serious breakdown of some of the largest altcoins across the board against Bitcoin. I want to dive into the Alt-BTC pairs and try to see whether or not there's enough depth in the trend for altcoins to continue leading or continue bleeding. And last but not least as well, we'll also be diving into the macro scene. We're going to be taking a look at stocks and commodities such as precious metals like gold. So if you guys are interested for all of that and you enjoy the episode, consider dropping a like. It's one of the greatest ways you can support the content we put out here on this channel. And let's go ahead and kick things off. So I want to start here by focusing in on Bitcoin. What we've generally got here is a coiling of price. We've got a key resistance range, which is the big even level of 38K. And we've also got this ascending line of short-term support here. Now, the important thing here is we kind of enter into this kind of make or break moment where Bitcoin will either continue here through this range or break down through this range and start to maybe go through a kind of further downward correction here over the next few weeks and months as maybe some of the hype and overpricing may die out. The key thing here is to just wait and watch and see what happens here between these two levels. What we're going to be looking for is either a solid green candle close above this range or a break below the line of support. I will be fair in saying that every time we've come below this line here, even on the recent pullback back in the early to mid part of November, we've been met with buyers coming in here. So it will be interesting to see as we've spent a little bit more time here up in this price range, whether or not we're going to have the steam to continue, or if this time around things may very well be different and we need to pull back to maybe some of these further levels down here like the 32,500 range, or even down here towards the more particular resistance range for price back here. So it'll be interesting to see that. But I have to tell you guys something here. One of the more positive headlines I think for Bitcoin has just made its way over the past 24 hours. And unfortunately, a lot of people have actually missed it because I think so many people are so hyper-focused on a Bitcoin ETF. They're so hyper-focused on some things that, again, will be positive for Bitcoin for sure, no doubt, but I've always come back to that question of how positive. Well, this one headline here actually has me slightly interested here, and this is the headline that reads around Javier Milei, which is the new Argentinian president as of last night. So there was an election going on in Argentina, and one of the kind of outsider candidates really came in strong here. With over 87% of votes, Milei had come in at 56% versus Massa, who was the competitor, at 44%. Now, for those who have not been following Javier's journey into the political sphere in Argentina, he essentially is this kind of outsider libertarian candidate. Argentina, as many of you know, is a beautiful country, beautiful kind people and everything, but is just ripe with continuous inflation. This has been a continuous problem in Argentina, and it has to do somewhat with the structural foundation of how Argentina's economy works, but it also has to do with mismanagement from the central bank to some degree. And because of this, Javier is coming in with a sort of kind of libertarian viewpoint that, hey, central banks are essentially taxing through inflation, and with this, we believe that there could be an alternative path forward. Now, Javier has not specified exactly his vision here. I think, at least I don't have a full grasp of it, to be completely candid. I don't think most people do. It's still early on here. He's just gotten voted in. But essentially, I think this is a very interesting headline because if we got all riled up in the last bull market about El Salvador becoming a pro-Bitcoin state, which, mind you, albeit it's at an accelerating rate here, is a $29 billion economy, Argentina is no laughing matter. It's not the US, it's not China, it's not most of the leading developed countries without Europe, like Germany, but you gotta admit here that Argentina is a $487 billion economy. And while one that's not really growing at the moment, it is still notable. And to hear that Javier, in this case, is a very big pro-Bitcoin advocate, I think this is definitely noteworthy. I mean, I could imagine something playing out in the next couple of years where Argentina essentially tries to build a gold standard 2.0, where either they are mining Bitcoin, they purchase Bitcoin to some degree, and there's either a fractional or serious backing behind the Argentinian peso with Bitcoin. I know that sounds pretty far-fetched, it might sound unattainable, but if Argentina could do something like this and even just have some kind of Bitcoin reserve ratio against its base currency, that would be huge for Bitcoin. And I think more than anything, it would send signals for Bitcoin as this alternative hedging asset. The more stuff like that can happen, Bitcoin's narrative of being this alternative hedging asset, this asymmetric asset separate from everything, becomes more interesting. I'm not saying that that's going to happen or that it's guaranteed. I just think that this is a really interesting catalyst to open up the conversation for Bitcoin becoming that reserve asset in a time where inflation is pretty bad. You're going to need a lot more of that, because if we don't see that and the Fed continues to tighten and keep strength in the dollar, then the narrative is going to fall flat, and there's not much else you can really pin on Bitcoin that makes it this really exciting asset. It's supposed to be this asymmetric separate asset, but it really, in the long term here during this inflationary wave, has not really provided the results to prove that here. Sure, it's up in 2023, but we've had inflation since back here in 2021. And Bitcoin generally, on the grand scheme of things, is still trying to find those grounds to prove whether or not it's ready to make that next move. The next thing I want to focus on here, guys, speaking about whether or not we've got the momentum for the next move, is focusing on altcoins versus their BTC pairings. Now, we all know Bitcoin has been kind of churning up here throughout 2023. It's made a over 130% move off those exact lows back in November of 2022. The question remains whether or not only is Bitcoin going to continue, but also altcoins. This is a really important topic to consider here, guys. What we're seeing is ETHBTC, which again, we've continued to say to steer clear of altcoins here for the past 2 years. And what do you know here? Right, in that period of time, we've seen alts just continuing to generally bleed on the long term against Bitcoin. Now, we've said, if anything here, DCAing into Bitcoin, playing it safe, that's fine. While we do believe that the market is moving lower long term, we still don't believe we're in the full scale situation of a full scale bull market. At the same time, alts here are continuing to pull back, and we're seeing a retestment of a lot of long-term line of supports. Here in ETH, we've got a little bit of buy-side pressure over the last few days, but nothing like what we were seeing back here, not the continuation that we saw back during that period of time in July and August of 2022. Mind you, during the period of time where we sold our ETH position, we sold our altcoins and our cryptocurrency positions, and Bitcoin was at 25K, and altcoins at that period of time were really at some of their highest levels, even to this date. So we can see again that we're barely holding on this line of support here. And when I take a look at the Lux Algo indicator here, what I'm noticing is that for the first time, this is on the weekly chart here, for the first time since back in January 2018, we're seeing a red flip here on the trend. And this to me is a really worrying sign. The fact that bulls are not coming in here at this multi-year trend line for Ethereum, right? Just to kind of expand it out here. All right, and scale it here, we can see that this trend line has been holding since December of 2016. That's a 7-year trend line as of this December that's coming up. That is not a good look here for the future price potential of Ethereum against Bitcoin. And it also might be a worrying signal about the broader trend for altcoins in the long run. If we can't hold this similar support range or this long-term line of support, which we said again is the bare minimum range to start getting interested in ETH. Right? But we believe that if this can't hold, that's your worrying sign to wait until much lower levels here, like down here between 0.037 to 0.04. Now, just to clarify again, for those who are wondering, like, what do these values mean on the screen? It basically means, essentially for this measurement, how much Bitcoin do you need to purchase 1 ETH? So you need 0.05445 BTC to purchase 1 Ethereum coin. So the lower this goes here, right, the more Ethereum is losing out to Bitcoin. And you're better off just waiting likely either in cash or in Bitcoin before you enter in these positions. Hopefully that helps clarify things a little bit, right? So instead of spending 0.05 BTC to buy 1 ETH coin, you can wait till it's down here at 0.04. So you can essentially buy a 20% or more premium, roughly around 30%, right? 25-30% within this range here in order to get more Ethereum. And that's a big focus here as a trader, because essentially if you're going into altcoins and you're not winning out against Bitcoin, you might as well just be in the defensive play, which is Bitcoin, right? Or in some cases in cash, if Bitcoin's not winning out either. Take a look here at BNB. Now this has been one that, again, I continuously emphasize people focus on, because BNB is I think a momentum gauge for exchange volume and the anticipation of new exchange volume and new participants coming in the space. And what I see here is that it's pretty much a clear downtrend. I'm not here to bash Binance as an exchange. There's been a lot of people spreading FUD about Binance over the last few years. We've kept relatively neutral here. I think Binance is pretty well grounded in the crypto space to a large extent. Not to say it doesn't have its problems. But generally speaking, we've been pulling back here to the lowest level since back in April 2021. We weren't able to hold on the line of support that was formulated between the lows of May 2021 and October 2021. And along with that, we are coming up on a more than, in this case, 6-year trend line. I apologize. Yeah, the last one we talked about was a 7-year trend line from 2016. In this case, we're talking about a trend line here that's been in play for over 6 years. And when we take a look at the Lux Algo indicator, we can see very clearly why this is continuing to play out here. Momentum, every single time we've had maybe a little bump up in price, it's not even coming here towards the resistance cloud that's going down over time. And because of that, as we approach this line of historic support, while I have no doubt you'll maybe see some buyers coming in here, the question is it going to hold over the next few weeks and months? And if it doesn't, if Bitcoin starts correcting and the sentiment for alts are not there, I can pretty much tell you that this is going to probably break through here, and maybe it catches a bit at a lower level here. So instead of the 66% correction against Bitcoin, it's down here at 75%, or worst case, I think down here at around 85%. But as you guys can probably see here, while a 66% correction doesn't sound so much different from a 75 or 76% correction, you will see that in nominal terms, it's down 27%. So that's a huge discount window if you just wait for the right setup. If you can just wait here for the trend to actually show some signs of real momentum change. And I'm not saying to pick the absolute low or anything or try to do that and just wait around until you get your exact level. I'm just saying that we should at least wait for some signs of optimism, right? Because even if you look back at the last cycle here, or back here in 2019 or here in 2017, if you simply just wait for the green flip on a lot of these momentum indicators, in this case, you can just ride the wave, right? You ride the majority of the wave there. You don't have to capture the absolute lows, and you don't have to hold something stressing the whole time whether or not you're actually in an upward move. So this is again where indicators like Lux Algos can essentially be a huge tool here towards helping you to determine whether or not we're actually in a new bull market, if we're actually really going to see that momentum. If you guys are interested to get access to these indicators, I'll leave it down below in the description. I'll give you my custom link that'll give you a discount of over 60% as they're going through the Black Friday sale at the moment. This is going to be a huge tool here that can help you guys in your arsenal for trading. And with 60% off in this case, you guys are going to be able to get access towards their whole indicator suite. This is just one of many indicators. It's my favorite one of the main ones that they offer within the platform. And I think it's definitely something that you guys can utilize in your trading strategy. I want to take a look at a couple more altcoins here. Again, XRP breaking the line of support here. It tried to get back up above there, yet again facing near-term resistance at the same range back in September, June of 2023, and March of 2023, and yet again coming back down below this line here. Right now we are down around 57.5%, and I think at a minimum here, guys, you're going to get below this line. I think we're going to come down here at the same range we were in January of 2021, as we've basically come up to the same range we were at in May of 2021, August of 2021. All right, I think essentially because we went up to that range against BTC, you've got a good chance you're going to fall into this accumulation channel. This has been where buyers, institutional buyers come in and really drive up the next move for XRP. So that's, again, if we keep that in a kind of nominal terms here, right, we can see that's another 43% discount if we go all the way down to 75%. So if you're looking to trade these momentum plays, guys, you got to wait until they're showing momentum, or that they're at least in the ranges where, historically speaking, it's favorable to go long these plays, because they can continue to bleed out here. They can go on for a long period of time, just like it did in 2014 to 2017, only then to finally start moving up in a very short window of time. And this also leads me to talking about Solana, guys. Now, I understand everyone's really juiced up. You guys have probably seen my videos on altcoins. You've heard me talk about my thoughts on these recent moves and these supposed market leaders that are leading the way right now and how lacking in fundamentals they are. But even for those of you who might just be like, Nick, I don't care about fundamentals. I don't think it's real. I care about price. Well, there is something I think you guys should be noting on here when it comes to your analysis. In this case, Solana really bled out here versus the other altcoins. And I think that, looking in hindsight, and with a fair bit of criticism on myself and my trading strategy and the way I was kind of perceiving it, things were just so bad back then that I fell a little bit into the narrative, like a lot of people did, that because FTX was collapsing, Solana would never come back to a degree. And while fundamentally I think that's pretty clear that's the case. There's no new developers on the network in net terms. We're losing developers on Solana. Stablecoin liquidity has not increased. At the same time, this was one of the most oversold altcoins against Bitcoin from its top to bottom analysis. And because of that, that's given Solana some room here to start moving back up against its BTC comparative. Well, what do you know? We're right here from top to bottom, top to the current price at around 64-65% of the downside. That is roughly in line with what we're seeing with a lot of the other large cap altcoins, with XRP being down around 57% from those May highs in 2021. We can see BNB as well, which is down roughly around 66%. And of course, ETH obviously being the furthest away from it, as it's more of the defensive play, down around 40% against BTC. My main point here is that now that Solana is not too far off from the average competition from its top to bottom levels, or at least its top to current price level at the moment, I think this is going to be a period of time where you're going to see a lot of distribution, and it's going to be a bigger question of whether or not other altcoins are going to be accelerating against Bitcoin to the upside, because if not, I don't think Solana has much more grounds to move up, guys. It's already at a 20 billion plus market cap. There's no expansion in stablecoin liquidity, no major new DeFi applications that I can think of or know of in my research looking at Solana. I've constantly opened up the door for people to send me stuff that they're excited about, and I get nothing. I get nothing out there. So there's no real fundamental narratives developing. And even if there were speculative narratives, I would at least give it some room. But there's nothing that I can think of right now. So because of that, because there's no new real significant applications or new users coming into the network, I remain skeptical at these levels. And this is the same range we were at here before the FTX collapse as well. Mind you, it's important detail there. So again, I think this could rotate back down as time progresses, but we're going to see. We'll see how things play out. The big thing here, though, that again I want to emphasize is that I think we're not seeing the kind of resilience that we should be seeing at these price levels. Cardano is a great example of this. Cardano has made some serious multiples in the past. It not only was a major play in 2017, but it was also in a similar fashion doing the same thing into 2021 from 2020. And now that we came down to this line of support that's ascending over time with higher lows, we did get some buyer interest here, but it's nowhere near the kind of resiliency that we've seen in the past. We still haven't even gotten to above where we were back in July against Bitcoin. And it's starting to look as if this name may no longer be one of the market leaders, that it very may well be on its path towards going lower and lower and losing out against Bitcoin, especially if it can't hold on this line of support, guys. That's not me bashing on Charles Hoskinson. It's not me bashing on Cardano or ADA. It's just being realistic. The price is telling me this. And this is the same issue that I see in BNB and a lot of other plays in the market. So this is something you need to keep in mind here if you're really allocating to altcoins. The idea with altcoins is that you don't want to try to capture the bottom. That's a near endless task in many cases. What you want to do is you want to buy in when there's clear drive and momentum. You want to be willing to easily and comfortably pay that 30-50% premium, because you know at that moment, once things are starting to move, you know, there's going to be other people who are just going to keep paying higher and higher and higher. You get the parabolic move, and that's where you can make the serious gains, right? There was someone on Twitter who I took a comment from one of my previous videos, and I think he completely misinterpreted it. The point here that I've driven, guys, is not that you won't make more buying when something's up. Of course, yes, if you had a magical wand and you knew exactly when the lows were going to be, you're going to make much more money, right? But it doesn't mean that you need to buy the absolute lows to make life-changing returns. You can wait until there's some trend conviction, right? Something that signals to you that you have a higher probability to make money than lose it. And you could have 10, 20% of your portfolio in altcoins and make sizable returns that far outpace Bitcoin. Life-changing returns, as people call it. So that's the key focus here. When we come here to analyzing total market cap and look for the kind of trend direction with not only Bitcoin but also altcoins, we've got to know whether or not we've really got the rocket ship fueled and ready to go. That's what I always mention here as a trader is it's not about capturing bottoms, it's not about selling tops, it's about knowing generally when it's time to get in, capture the majority of the move. When you see that things are shaky and not continuing, that momentum's dying, you get out of there. right? And trust me, I've learned that that is the best thing to focus on, because I only learned that through experience, guys. I've done it great sometimes. I've also missed it sometimes. And the more and more I go throughout my trading journey, I learn that that is the important focus of a good trader, knowing when it's time to take excessive risk, and also when it's time to start deleveraging and start getting out of your positions, or generally speaking, just getting back into cash in simple speak. But anyways, coming back here to the topic of total market cap, we are starting to see again a clear inconsistency here this past week in the trend. While it is definitely good that we've closed here on the roughly high end side of it and we were able to gain back some of those losses in the total market cap, we've started to slow down here after a very clear upward direction. We have to show up to the plate here in late November. We got to see some serious momentum here, not only because of the fact that total market cap is starting to stall here, but also with Bitcoin. We are in this tight range here, and it's time to show up and show whether or not we have got more continuation of the trend. If you guys want my take here, right, while I'm not so much here to tell you about little short-term price moves and stuff, I gotta say, things are looking a little bit exhausted at the moment. Looking a little bit exhausted, and the reason for this is taking a look here what's going on in equities. We had a big short squeeze here in the near term within equity prices, and I think if we take a look at VTI, there's a good chance here that we could have a gap fill up towards 227. As many of you know, when it comes to trading in financial markets, more specifically equities that have open and closing hours, from open to close, when you have gaps in the market, they eventually, in most cases, get filled. And I think with this short squeeze, well, we have a lot of gaps that will eventually get close to the downside. In the near term, markets are coming up to chase this gap here at 227 for VTI, and may even rally in here towards the prior resistance range of price back here from March of 2022 and February 22, as a lot of people will be FOMOing in off the assumption that, oh my gosh, we are having this soft landing, it's a new bull market, time to go all in. And that's exactly when a lot of investors get trapped at a much higher price. And mind you, again, off of some of these days which have been incredibly thin in volume, right? So it's very easy to push up prices in the near term. For a lot of investors to get trapped on a higher range, distribution plays out and things start to fade. So that's a key thing to keep in mind here. While we've had this big gap run up here, this to me looks like it's going to be an opportunity to potentially short up in these resistance ranges up here. Now, we had the big news coming out as well. I don't know if you guys have been following this saga over the weekend. It all happened within around a 48-hour window from back on Friday. But essentially, Sam Altman, who's the founder of OpenAI, which is the founder of ChatGPT, they're in partnership with Microsoft. Long story short, was essentially fired from OpenAI, and now Microsoft has hired Sam back on towards a new AI research team. I don't know if you guys have been tracking this. You can find all the details on Twitter, but essentially this whole drama broke out where Sam was, out of nowhere fired by the board of OpenAI, which again, it's a bit difficult to explain, but there's this kind of nonprofit foundation again around OpenAI in this case versus its partnership with Microsoft. And long story short, Sam and everything seem to have been resolved to some degree. They have a new CEO stepping in for OpenAI, but Sam is still going to collaborate with Microsoft. This sent shockwaves, I think, and if futures were trading, I'm pretty sure you would have seen Microsoft down 5 or 10%. However, as Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, essentially called for an emergency meeting, they got everything resolved, and the absolute boss of a CEO that Satya is for Microsoft. I mean, you guys know I've said that stocks should go down generally here in the next couple of years, but I gotta tell you, Satya has been a killer CEO for Microsoft over the last few years. He got that all resolved, and luckily it pretty much saved the company, I think, from a huge pullback. But the main point here I wanted to say is that with that crisis averted here, that's going to give us another kind of week or so of optimism here. And I think even outside of just the VTI chart I demonstrated earlier, we've also got this trend across the indices. As we can see, the Dow Jones here has been continuing to climb up and gap up over these past few weeks, and is now entering into the same resistance range from January and April of 2022, as well as here in July. So I think this is going to be the range here where you want to look to potentially build a short position after these couple of green weeks. This is again a rally that was at a similar range here from these lows back in May, and similar back here from December. So after this kind of percentage move here, I'm expecting a cool down here in prices, and I think that we could see a pretty significant correction of equities. So long as we can't clear through this range up here and break new highs, it might be a period of time to start looking for some moves to the downside when everyone's getting euphoric, when everyone's getting optimistic. But if you want to play it safer, also be wary here that there could be slightly new all-time highs, a short deviation that gets everyone riled up, the headlines going, and then you start to really cool down here. So I'm not really looking to make any massive moves here now, guys. We've been in cash. I'm just trying to signal some different ideas that you guys can pursue here. But again, make sure that you're not over leveraged. Don't do anything too crazy, and make sure that you've again got your risk management appetite set up here with proper stop losses. And last but not least as well, I want to take a look at gold. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, Nick, are you excited about gold? Are you excited about gold? You know, we always cover Bitcoin here on this channel, and I understand that there is a big overlap between those who are big on Bitcoin and those that are big on gold and silver. And I have to tell you guys here, personally for me, while we've been watching gold for a long time, we even in the Dash report here basically put out like a short-term buy signal here, or at least we're signaling that at one of the ranges we look for some kind of support would be down here in this range here around 1800 towards the ascending line of support. And we did get that move with all the situation in Israel and Palestine, and that led the price moving up here by 8%. However, right now we are continuing to see a lack of follow through to get up towards that range at 2075. This is really the big range here, guys, we need to clear. And as you can see, every single time this has been a massive point. There's a huge wick downward. Someone is distributing, someone is offloading at this position. And while the lows are getting higher here, that's great. This is definitely looking in the long term like it's a bullish pattern. I would much rather just wait until we get a trend confirmation that that person who was distributing there, those sellers who were selling at that range, that's no longer a supply range or a resistance range. And from there, we can really just, you know, kind of head off to the sky here. I don't think it's going to make anywhere near the kind of returns that Bitcoin might make, but at the same time, gold is definitely still a market to be respected. And in that case, you can still always kind of increase your risk profile by doing a little bit of leverage, like 2x to 3x leverage, with really nice kind of manageable levels of risk to reward. However, if you are serious about having some kind of alternative portfolio of asymmetric assets like cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin to altcoins, as well as precious metals like gold and silver, I highly recommend, especially if you're in the United States, to consider the tax advantages of an IRA account or individual retirement account. That's why I want to spend some time to talk about none other than our long-term partner, iTrustCapital. Many of you might know we've covered iTrustCapital for a long time here in this channel. We were early supporters to the platform, and iTrustCapital has grown, becoming the largest crypto IRA platform in existence that allows you to buy and sell crypto as well as gold and silver within an individual retirement account, which offers massive tax advantages for those who are looking to plan for retirement, where you can trade no taxes in the interim and only have to pay taxes once you actually close out or want to take it from the account later on in your year's retirement at a much lower tax bracket. So this is a really interesting method towards investing, and they cover practically any asset you can think of, from leading cryptocurrency assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum, as well as gold and silver, down all the way towards a whole range of altcoins. So if you're looking to trade in the short term or trade or invest over the long term, an IRA is going to really meet to practically any type of strategy here, whether you're a short-term trader or a long-term trader and investor. So I highly recommend, if you guys are interested in this, check out the link down below in the description where you guys can get a really solid sign-on bonus when signing for iTrustCapital. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you all appreciated the content we put out here today. If you like this video, consider dropping a like. It's one of the greatest ways you can support the channel. We've got a lot more coming here over the next couple of weeks. I want to do maybe some educational pieces here. So again, if there's anything you guys would like to see, let me know. But until the next video, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.